Welcome everyone to another Slab Stocks YouTube live stream. Nate and Aaron here. I just introduced yourself, so there you go. Nate's here with me once again, and we are breaking down sports card grading today. We have a fun live stream. We put in some work before this to get a bunch of different reference points in for one specific card. But interesting debate to be had here about different grading options, the price levels right now, turnaround times. Where might you look to grade right now? Because honestly, that's such a big question. I think for most of the last year and a half, a lot of people look to grading for a way to make money in sports cards. PSA has been on suspension / doing high price services now for, 6 months? BGS probably 4 months, and then there's some other cheaper options right now to grade with if you might find that interesting for yourself. But let's jump into the presentation. Let's start going. What's up, Nick? What's up, Creed?
Quick thing, Inglorious P CSG is on here. We just didn't have enough room for the graphic.
Yeah, so I didn't put CSG in the thumbnail just because the labels are so big it would take up too much space, and then it would look really off and not proportion. But we do have CSG included in today's discussion. Before talking about the grading, I want to point out some sales that happened. Oh, Timo throwing in $10. Thank you, man, or $9.99, I should say, making it look a little cheaper there. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. But starting off before the grading talk, Lebron Prism. There were 2 gold, high-end Prism golds that ended in the last week and a half. One through the premier auction from PWCC on August 18th. A PSA 10 from 2016, gold out of 10, sold for $72,000. And then the 2020 Prism LeBron, that's like the Kobe tribute dunk picture, the miniature LeBron as people call it, where it's actually a really cool-looking card. But it's a PSA 8 that sold 2 nights ago through Golden for $97,200. Just some crazy sales on these modern golds. I think a lot of collectors look at these as kind of like LeBron's modern chase set. You know, if you're going to put a modern set together, LeBron, you might as well get every single year's Prism Gold 10, which is why I think we see these sell for so high. But I don't know which one you'd rather have, Nate, but I think I'd rather have the 2016 PSA 10. I know that the 2020 is pretty cool with that pose and everything, but there's something about having a 10 versus an 8 when they're both Prism Gold 10 in the 2016 set. I actually really like it. I don't know how many people like the 2016 set, but I think I'd rather have the other one for like 25 grand cheaper. How about you?
Can I say neither? Can I take my $72,000 and buy something completely different than a 17th year LeBron?
That's fair. That's a fair point. I would actually agree with Nate too. I mean, I would way rather, if I had to spend it on cards, which I would want to if I had that free money to spend, I would go and spend it on that Giannis Immaculate. Actually, if you think about the Giannis Immaculate rookie patch out, numbered out of 10 from 2013, that sold for 59 grand, I think it was, versus a, like Nate said, 17th or 14th, whatever year LeBron that is, would way rather have that.
Nick Foles, is this a little bit of foreshadowing for the rest of the slideshow here?
Nick says, my SGC stuff has been selling a lot recently. Yeah, there's been actually a lot of volume in SGC sales recently. And Dave here's got a point on the Prism LeBron action. Is the 2020 Prism more of a result of Lakers uni or the Kobe dunk tribute, or just the cost of 2020 hobby boxes? I would say the Kobe dunk tribute, most likely. I don't think that the 2020 Prism set actually helps it. I think that actually might hurt it. Like if that was a different year, it'd be worth way more in my opinion. But it's probably the Lakers uni plus that Kobe tribute dunk is my guess. Would you agree?
I mean, I think it's probably a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's fair.
But mostly the Kobe dunk tribute, because it was just this post the other day where people were talking about how they were buying this card. They weren't necessarily LeBron fans, but they bought it because they're Kobe fans.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. A way to buy LeBron while also kind of buying for Kobe at the same time.
It's like all right, I'll buy LeBron only if there's a connection to Kobe.
Yeah, right. What's up, Bazooka Tom? How we doing? Magic, good to see you. And Nick Foles, I live about 3 hours away from SGC, running 2 weeks still. Well, I guess if you can drive a huge bulk submission there and drop it off and pick it up in 2 weeks, save some shipping costs too. Well, gas is.
Well, Creed asked, how are the SGC turnarounds lately?
Oh, I see. Yeah. All right. Moving on. So onto the main topic of discussion today. We've got the 5, I would say, main grading companies right now. PSA.
Now, it's a little bit of a slap in the face to HGA to put CSG on the same tier, but I get the pyramid scheme there. So.
I didn't build this as a tier system. Wink, wink. I'm just messing around. No, so I mean, yeah, you can tell it's a pyramid and it's built from top to bottom with PSA at the top. But I did kind of lump these in maybe how the perceived market value is of these right now. PSA at the top, BGS. I think you have a lot of older collectors and investors that try to warrant BGS by saying, "Oh well, look at the 2009 Mike Trout, the 2013 Logo Man LeBron, or Giannis, or the 2003 Exquisite LeBron. Like so many are graded by BGS." Well, that's because those were the biggest cards back in the 2000s and 2010s. Not that many big cards get graded by BGS now. I mean, I guess you have like the Holland Superfractor 1 of 1 that did go to BGS. Yes, there's some other huge cards that go there, but they have pretty much ridden off a lot of the market for their grading by this point. We'll discover that more during this exercise. SGC has definitely, clearly, in my opinion, became either tied to BGS or right behind them in terms of market perception. And HGA and CSG, the reason why they're at the bottom is just because they're the newest. HGA, I'm sure there's a lot of fans of HGA and their labels and their values and everything. And CSG, in my opinion, is definitely at the bottom of this entire list. But we can talk about that more as we go too, which I think is what you were getting at, right?
Yeah. Can we get there we go.
Sorry.
HGA is cheesy. It's a little bit cheesy, but it's not the cheesiest thing I've ever seen. The cheesiest thing I ever saw was
there's a couple really cheesy
walk-up things at the National that were pretty cheesy.
Like that came up too at the booth.
Yeah.
I've seen some on Instagram, Jordan says, "Good day, Nate. You'll be happy to know that Yachty is retiring. You have anything to do with this? LOL."
He must have watched the replay of this and said, "You know what? Just to make Nate happy, I will end my career." I'm surprised he's retiring, honestly.
Best quote ever. Best Aaron quote ever. PSA is Thanos. I just wish that they had a more affordable option now. They should just buy SGC and integrate them as their cheap grading option. What's up, Global Sports Card Investor? All right, keep going here. Let's see. What are we going to start with? So, same slide, but we're going to analyze the 2020 Prism Lamelo Ball. So, Nate, before this episode, was like, "Yo, Aaron, make sure that you say that this is for one example of one card with one sales data point from each sale, most recent sale of that given grade, and then the rest of the company is related to that." So yeah, this discussion we're about to have is based off of a $50 Lamelo card. I sprinkled in a few $10 grades in here, and then some like $1,000 grades to look at that too. But mostly that this is based off of the Lamelo Ball. What gets an ad?
Well, hey Dwayne, hey Global Sports Card Investor. What's up, Rob? It's just Dave.
What's up, Rob? Oh, that's right. Okay, here we go. PSA, starting off with PSA. So right now, the update on PSA is that they did introduce the $200 grading that is available. It's called Express, and then they have Super Express for $300 and Walkthrough for $600, and then their Premium 10 for $10,000 if you're interested. But really interesting Instagram comment I saw before the stream today. So I posted on Instagram kind of a little sneak peek from today's stream, and someone commented on there that from door to door, they got their Express submission back, $200 grading, in 9 days. So I put on the slides today that's estimated 10 to 30 business days, depending on like if they have high volume submissions, low volume submissions. It probably sways back and forth. But oh yeah, Pure Gray Index. That was the really random one that I was thinking of. Did you see that? Or remember we talked about that? They like cracked the case.
Oh, the one where yeah,
from Burbank.
Ooh,
rough. Either way, the reason why we wanted to bring in the Lamelo Ball, because I saw Bazooka Tom call that out, is because when PSA shut down, suspended their lower end services, that specific type of card, your big star rookie or big, high potential sought after rookie like Lamelo, like Joe Burrow, like I guess Ohtani or Tatis, guys like that, their base and their maybe their next level up, like your greens from Prism or your silvers, like those start to have a difficult time to be graded because of the fact that you wouldn't pay $300 most likely to grade a base of Lamelo. Some people have been. And it's interesting to see because those are the ones that are most affected by it. You're still going to grade your $1,000, $2,000 card with PSA most likely, unless you want to take it somewhere else. But that's why we chose that specific card, because I think that's the side of the market that was lost the most through PSA's suspension. So we want to pull up some sales values here. So we're calling this Lamelo Ball Prism base around a $50 raw card through some averages of the sales on the left, plus just normally sells between 35 to 80 depending on the centering. But a PSA 9 sold for 181 and a PSA 10 sold for 736. My initial thoughts are 181 is obviously lower than anything you can sell or grade with PSA right now. $200 and $300 is all you can grade with, or $600 if you want to,
or 10,000
or 10,000. Keep that in mind. PSA 10 for 740. I can't understand that. Is there any situation where you see a $740 PSA 10 Prism base from 2020 a good buy? Is there any situation?
Well, quality control may be terrible, so then PSA 10s are hard to get.
Now that's fair, but the only situation I can even imagine is that you buy this and you have to sell it in the next 6 months. If you don't sell in the next 6 months and they start to grade way more of these, then it's just too much supply, I feel. But we can kind of visit more of that in this next slide, because I want to pull up how many of these are getting graded by PSA right now. So there's 140 PSA 10s out there of LaMelo, and there's 183 PSA 9s. I didn't see how many PSA 8s or 7s because I don't know why, but PSA still hasn't added the 2020 Prism NBA set to their pop report. If you just go and search on their website, you can't actually find it, or at least I haven't been able to. So what I did to get these pop reports is I actually scanned the barcode with my PSA app on eBay. I scanned the barcode for a 10 and a 9, and I saw there's 140 10s and 183 9s. So I know you mentioned quality control. Like, I guess it just depends on how many 8s and 7s there are, but that's probably in line with like 2019, maybe. I know 2020 is pretty trash on the centering.
That's probably pretty in line with what SGC and HGA and stuff were giving out for.
You're saying like 40-60 split or 50-45-55?
I mean, just more 9s and 10s.
Yeah.
More 9.5s than, at least SGC was more 9.5s than 10s and more 9s than 9.5s.
Right. Now, here's the flip side, though, and we won't do this for any of the other grading companies, but the reason why like PSA is still valuable for grading is because of your cards like this Joe Burrow. A raw of the Joe Burrow contenders, that is the championship ticket number 49 on card auto, sold for $2,950 on August 29th. Back on July 18th, the PSA 10 sold for $8,300 when it was a pop 1. The PSA 9 with the 10 auto sold for $2,175. So I don't know how much this card's gained in value over the last like month and a half straight up. Like if a PSA 9 in this card would now sell for over $3,000, if a PSA 10 would sell for over $10K. But either way, like that's why people still send cards to PSA, because you take your $3K card, if you get a 10 on it, especially a contenders on card auto, you're looking at $7-8K plus. So still very much a spot for it in the market, even though I'd say 90% of the people in the card market can't or won't grade with PSA right now. It still dominates this sector. You grab a 10, you pair it with a high-end card, and it's low pop, and you're looking at multiple thousands of dollars in profit in about a week if you get the right card in the right condition, of course. Now, that's not always guaranteed at all, but I still want to bring that up. Hey, talk us through Beckett.
So Beckett, you have two different options available, which is a little bit rougher than PSA. I mean, you can give $10,000 to PSA. You can't do that to Beckett. But they have $125 for no subgrades and $200 for subgrades. I can read it.
$250 for subgrades.
Oh, $250 for subgrades. Okay. I can't read it. It was very small on the screen. I can't read it, apparently. So $125 difference for no subgrades to subgrades, which stay on the line here. If you're thinking about leaving, stay on, because that comes with some very interesting information later on in this slideshow that I don't think I would have expected. And then obviously we have a BGS 9.5, no subgrades for $192. And if my memory serves me correctly, there was a BGS 9.5 with subgrades on like July 17th for $308. So $16 difference there for the subgrades to no subgrades. And then BGS 9 with subgrades, $140. BGS 9 without subgrades, $114 or $115.
And Beckett's still suspended all those services right now, and I don't know when they're going to restart anytime soon, but I cannot imagine that they got anywhere close to the volume of cards that PSA got, and I have no idea if Beckett has communicated with their audience or their customers, how backed up they are, how much left they have to go. I actually checked on PSA's website today, and they added to their complete through dates. They started to add now the percent that they've completed of a given month's submission. So, like, if you're looking at like bulk, modern, 2016 to present, or whatever your submission type is, it will say like 65% through what's the reasonable time frame? Like, I don't know, January or something, where like they've gone through 65% of submissions that were submitted in January of 2021 so far. Pretty cool to see like something like that getting introduced. I heard some rumbling about the complete through dates not including bulk submissions. I don't know if that's true or not. Like, I guess not bulk submissions. I meant from group subbers. That's what I meant to say. I don't know if that's true or not. Just something I think I read on the street. So maybe like that's something to be aware of if you are reading about the complete through dates.
Oh, and then here is the Beckett pop report for that. 3/8s, 5 8.5s, 38 9s, 45 9.5s, 2 10s, 0 black labels. And this is where it kind of is in line with the other companies, except not entirely, because I guess a 9.5 would be in line with a 10, and 10s were way worse, or less pop than 9s. But 2 10s, 45 9.5s, 38 9s, pretty even.
What's interesting here is you see the 2 10s out of the 93 total. There hasn't been a single BGS 10 to sell, so we couldn't incorporate that into like the profit based off of grading. But when I see 2 out of 93, that pretty much says to me, like, if you are like, oh, BGS is worth grading because you can get a pristine 10, you better probably like
2% chance.
Yeah, rethink that, because the odds of you getting a 10 on that card and actually making that profit is insanely small. We don't know how many people submitted how many cards to get those 10s. What if a guy submitted like 30, of the 93 to get one of the 10s? We don't know that. But the other interesting thing actually is that most of them have subgrades too. So most of the cards of the 45 9.5s have subgrades. Probably like from my it looked like 70-some%. I didn't do the actual math, but from what it looked like, which means that they were paying $250 a card to get those graded. This is probably the most interesting one of the entire presentation, right, Nate? And I think you got a lot of thoughts on this. So why don't you start going with SGC?
Let me tell you, I wasn't really an SGC guy, and then I see a lot of people posting about SGC. I'm like, okay, maybe. And then we did this exercise today, and I am a lot more on the SGC bandwagon than I was even like 4 hours ago. But you have the declared values on the left side. $1,500 or under is $30. And then the turnaround time for that, 20 to 25 days. And then you can keep going down that list. $1,500, that's a pretty healthy chunk of change for $30. And they're not going to upcharge you any. Mm-hmm. If you sent that into PSA for $300 and then it was over that amount, would they upcharge you still?
I mean, it's kind of like they'll upcharge you if it's a hot card and they know it's like, $10,000 and it's like a $3K card. But I haven't gotten upcharged on cards that I thought were $5K plus, and I sent it at the 2,500 level or whatever. So I think it's a dependent situation, or based on each card.
Okay, but 20 to 25 for $30 is a really good deal. A lot of these other places are either super expensive, or if you want to get 20 to 25 day turnaround, shout out CSG, it's $60.
Yeah, and if you're paying $30, like let's just say PSA were to reintroduce a $30 grading, and that's if it's a group submitter or whatever, what, a year?
Yeah, and if you pay $30 now and you don't get it sold by that time, you can always crack it and send it into PSA for $30 if they reintroduce that.
And my other thought too is, like, I've been noticing way more SGC cards hitting eBay, way more people sending submissions in through Instagram, just kind of like getting a pulse of what people are doing. And I feel like the more people that actually package up a submission and send it to SGC, the more people are willing to go onto eBay and buy a card that's already graded by SGC. Like
Yeah.
once you get over
Once you get over the hump of sending it in yourself, then you're more likely. I mean, I've looked at SGC cards that I'm like, oh, that's a good deal. I should probably buy that. I haven't done it yet, but now I have. Now I personally have cards where I'm like, I should probably get this graded at least just to get in a case. And SGC is the cheapest option, and also based on the information later, maybe one of the better ones.
Yeah, and I personally had bought my first SGC card in a while, probably about a month and a half ago. I think it was around my birthday, maybe like in June. I bought a Lukaku Blue Select 2015 of $299. It was a numbered card, a 9.5. I got it for like $45. Cost $30 to grade the card. And now the card's worth well over 100 because Lukaku moved to Chelsea. And like I was a fan of buying that budget level, nice serial numbered card at that price. I think I want to say something because in the past, if you rewind it all the way to like March, when PSA first suspended their, everything under $300, and they also increased their prices up to $300 at that same time, I was pretty vocally against SGC at that time because I just wasn't a fan of what SGC did in response. Instead of finding a way to, limit the amount of intake that they have to still guarantee their turnaround times, they went with a super aggressive marketing plan and increased their prices by double overnight. And that just isn't a business move that I'm a fan of. As someone that, tries to do as much for the people as possible, at SlabStox as a company, we try to do that. It just wasn't something I was a fan of, but looking now at it from a strictly business sense and that they decrease their prices now to $30 submitting directly through them. You can also, I'm sure, if you have, no group submitters like Clay Cards or Ryan, I don't know if Card Collector 2 cents there also, but I'm sure those guys, have an even better rate that you could maybe take advantage of. With the decreased price, it makes a lot more sense. It made no sense to me at $75 a card. Do you agree with that? It made no sense at $75 a card. Okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't offline way back when for not agreeing with that. Now, Dan said just got a SGC 10 pristine gold. First time seeing one in person and had to. That's a good point, is that we are talking about SGC 10s in this episode based strictly off of their normal SGC 10. I think they call it pristine, or is it gem mint? No, 9.5s are gem mint, right? I think it's a pristine. Yeah, it's a pristine. I actually had an SGC 10 pristine. I sent in one grading submission ever to SGC. It was 2 years ago. It was after the 2019 National. I sent in soccer cards and hockey cards.
And my Svi.
And your Svi Mikhailuk. That's right. And I did get an SGC 10 pristine gold. It was on a canvas Upper Deck Young Guns braided point that I probably just should have stuck in a box and held this whole time because I held all my other hockey cards from SGC, because that one probably would have been worth multiple hundreds of dollars now. But I mean, that is another upside play with SGC, is that you actually do have that chance to get another. Well, I think I'm talking myself into sending some stuff off after the stream.
I know what I'm going to do. But anyways, we got to get to the end so that they see the numbers.
Oh, right. Rob said 75 was insane. That was a bad move. Glad that they lowered it. Same here. I am much more in on SGC at $30 and $25 if you have a group submitter potentially around there. Thank you for SoPro 03. 9.5 is mint plus. SGC 10 is gem mint. SGC 10 gold label is pristine. Okay, that's cool. That's also good to know. So they have a little bit different grading tier than PSA. No, then BGS I meant, because their SGC 10 is gem mint, just like PSA 10 gem mint. I'm slabbing soccer with SGC right now for the next 2 World Cups. Good to know from Tech. Dan says, I think you're talking me into it too. It's time for another sub. I think Nate sat next to me before the stream and said, hey, I think a lot of people might send cards to SGC after the stream.
Well, I only said it because I had no intention of sending cards to SGC. And now, after doing the research, I'm like, oh, I'm probably at least one card in my possession I'm going to send to SGC.
I know Nate said let's get to the numbers, and we're going to get to them too. But I think another thing while thinking about sending to SGC is like, make sure you do your due diligence with your cards. I think that it was very obvious that for a good portion of time, you could send borderline 9s to PSA. You could send, for sure 9s to PSA and know you're going to get like profit out of those cards, because for a long time, PSA 9s started pulling profit off the grade. I would be wary about that with SGC. I would do more due diligence to hold cards out of the submission than put more cards in willy-nilly, because those will start to stack up fast. If you start to rack up more $30 charges and they don't yield any profit and they might lose you money, I would just be more careful, I guess, with what you send. Not to say it's bad to send.
Wait.
Sorry,
One thing.
what do you got here?
Creed, at least wait to the end. At least wait to the end before you declare you're convinced.
Yeah, for sure. We have a table at the very end we're going to share and talk about before we make any decisions, although I guess Nate might have already done that. So here's the values for the Lamelo balls. So you got SGC 10 at 305, SGC 95 at 115 or 114.02 because Nate wrote that down on the table, and then SGC 9 at $74.81. Those are all from the last 2 weeks around there. So what happens is with these SGC graded cards and CSG and HG as well, even PSA now too, because of how expensive it is, the volume just isn't as high as it used to be on these cards for sales, because it's not like, there's 18,000 PSA 10 Luka Prisms. There's like 300 Lamelo. So sometimes it's hard to find data points closer to the day of like shooting this.
Ooh, wait 1 second. Also, just a side tangent on all this is that if you look at the center one, the $74.81, you'll notice something in the screen that doesn't belong. And it is the person's hand, and it is my biggest pet peeve in the entire world, is that if you're going to take a picture of your card, please get your hand out of it and just make sure it's the card and only the card.
I will say, eBay listings, yes. Sometimes I like making like an aesthetic picture for like an Instagram post, like you like take it outside and like hold it and then get the sun reflection on it. But clearly that's not what's happening here, because it's a super dull picture too. It looks like in front of the keyboard. So I agree with Nate. Like the other two, respectable. One's a scan, one's a picture on an angle with some light on it. Dan, you really need to go with your best of the best. Be meticulous and cautious. The SGC 9s often end up around raw card value, which would be a negative $30 or $30 loss. Here's the pop report for SGC. So as Nate mentioned, kind of similar to PSA's breakdown, although the interesting thing here is that there's 9 5s in the mix. So 475 total graded. I imagine that's more than PSA. I know we didn't look at 8 and below, but that'd be a lot of 8s and below if it caught up to this, because it's like 360 or something. So it'd have to have like 100 below 8 or 8 or lower. And then I think what was there, a 3.5? Wasn't there?
There was a 3.5. There was a 4.5. There was a 7, a 7.5. 4 of those.
Gabriel, I will remove my feet next time. Sorry, Nate. Looks like Nate started calling out some people in this chat. Thanks for the tip, Nate. Next time I'll remove my hand.
Hey, I'm just making change for the better. That's all I'm doing.
What do you send prison-based rookies from the 2020, 2021 rookie class? So it's interesting. Well, I kind of have something to parallel that to. It's not exactly. It's right here, actually. It's not exactly the Prism NBA class from 2020, but I want to pull an example of, let's say you have a $4 card or $8 card post shipping. Like what should you do with that? So this is a Pedri 2020 Topps from Champions League base, SGC 9 sold for $30, 9.5 in the lower right hand side.
Honestly, that's not bad. You get the card for $4.25 and you grade it for $30. You're only losing $4.25.
There is $5 in shipping on that, but
whatever.
But a 9.5 sold 4 days earlier for $38. And then above that is a 9.5 refractor. So the first raw card is the base that we're talking about. But I just want to put the refractor in there too. A 9.5 refractor sold for $70. And then the SGC 10 base sold for $75. So if you think about that, $9 you buy the card for, you grade it for $30. You got some shipping costs to the grading here and there. Hopefully you're grading more than one card so that one card doesn't eat all that cost. And, you're making what, like $20 or so post fees?
If you get an SGC 10, you're losing money on 9.5s and 9s. But if you just pick out the cream of the crop of your cards.
And I think the main point while looking at this is, like, for a while, definitely for the 2 to 3 months post PSA suspension of services, there was no option to send a $5 card through. There was none. And while this is difficult because you need to get a 10, it's at least kind of there.
Also, it is trending in the right direction. The prices are trending up. So there is potential that, that 9.5, while you're losing money on it now, give it 6 months, you might break even with how these prices are trending.
And not to mention just the player and the athlete in general gaining value. something I want to make clear though with this is like there were in this particular card, which is very relatable to 2020 Prism when you talk about like, you know, your Patrick Williams or your Halliburton or your Anthony Edwards. Like Pedri is very similar to those type of players. Better than Patrick
You
Williams.
can't be
probably.
choosing Killian Hayes. Right.
You can't be choosing Killian Hayes. And I'd also caution be early. And I don't want you to go home and send like all your base off and spend a ton of money, $30 grading every single base card. But by the time that, like Nate said, these start to get to be, maybe this is $150 SGC 10 at some point, all of them are going to be sent there. And once all of them get sent there,
prices will drop.
Prices drop because so many more are going to come back out into the market and are going to start to be sold. Clearly, this is a low population card right now. And I would caution, like, if you do want to go the route of grading $5 to $10 base cards through SGC, they have to be 10s or at least a chance at a 10. And you need to do it sooner rather than later. But also decide if you want to do it at all. That is not me saying you should go do it. That's just you have to decide for yourself if you want to do it at all. I would not be one to send a $5 Pedri base there. I would try to send a refractor or a, you know, Aqua of 199, something like that. It's actually amazing how well SGC was able to turn around their business after last year when they were first gaining ground with modern cards. I do agree with that, Joseph. Oh, look at cousin of Victor Crumb back in here.
That's true.
So I agree because I thought for a while when they dropped the ball hard their first rodeo round, they got such a big backlog and they were so slammed in behind, just like I know PSA was, but it's easier to not complain about PSA when your cards, when they sit there, they were actually gaining value instead of losing value, which now is actually reversed around as well. But they did turn around quite well, and their turnaround times are really, really good right now.
How about $100+ serial numbered raw? I mean, that's a great idea. I almost sent my Noelvi Martes into SGC. I sold them instead because I was flipping them for a good price. And I'm a little bit, I don't love, if I can make money, I make money, you know? Yeah. So I don't really hold. But I do think that's a very, very good choice. If you have something like a Noelvi Marte, say $100 blue or $100 purple, and you're like, okay, it's not worth sending in for $200 to PSA because it's unlikely I get $300 out of it, but you send it in for $30 and you might be able to get $200 out of it.
I think it's card dependent. So like my example with my Lukaku blue of 199, 95 or 299. I bought it as a 9.5, but if someone were to grade it, it'd be profitable right now if you got a 9.5, based on if you bought it for cheap enough. But like something like if you're talking about Ronaldo or Messi there, and you're talking like of 25 or of 10, I would send that to PSA. I really think any card that's like over $300 of a hot player, serial numbered, and if it gets a PSA 10, if you think it has a chance at a 10, it's worth the risk because like you could easily go from a $300 to $400 raw card into like a $1,500 PSA 10 if it's low enough pop or someone will buy it.
But again, it has to be a hot card.
Yes, it has to be like a hot
card. So not a 2021 National Ronaldo Messi.
No, I would
not. That
would
be the card if you wanted to send it into SGC, send it into SGC.
Yeah, so that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Like I was thinking your Topps Chrome orange number 25 of Ronaldo. You know, like that's going to PSA. But not the national set. So, that's a good point right there. It's because SGC is actually hiring people. Yes, easy to keep up with grading if you hire more people than grading you're taking in. Toa says HGA grades harder than PSA.
SGC.
Sorry, see, good point. SGC grades harder than PSA. I've heard chatter about that. It's so hard to actually get like a definitive answer on something like that. But the centering is probably a pretty objective way to look. PSA centering is 60-40, SGC is 55-45. That means you get 10s easier and so on. So interesting point. I think a huge case study would be very interesting on that. And
we move on.
Yeah, we move on. All right, on to HGA. I think Nate was looking up this one. You can talk to their pricing.
Hybrid grading approach. Obviously, they have many different levels here, and also different amounts of cards. So just say you're sending in one Lamelo Ball and you're trying to get the cheapest, you're looking at $20. You're sending in 100 Lamelo Balls and you're trying to get the cheapest, you're looking at $20. You're also looking at the same for 30-day, $35 a card, no matter how many you send in. And that's really all we care about. We don't really care about the 2-day or the 10-day for this exercise. So we'll just stay with that. You can obviously see that there on your screen. On your screen. For me, it's interesting that I don't know why I wouldn't wait the extra month to save $15, unless you really say you send it in now and you want it back by the end of the MLB season. Okay, I get it. Otherwise, I'm waiting those extra 30 days to save $15 a card.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting, right? I think it's a very card dependent situation right there. And also, I want to point out the right screenshot I added in because in the past they used to limit submissions that could be taken in. It was like 5,000 submissions maybe in a week total. But I think that what I'm gathering from this is that there is no limit anymore. I think that they hired a ton of people. I heard at the National, and that submissions are open where you can just openly submit a card. Now, I don't think that there's like, it used to be on like Thursdays at 5 o'clock, you had to get into a queue and get selected to have a submission. I'm sure that some hype kind of slowed down with them where everyone was trying to get in the queue, and then they hired a lot more people, and now it kind of is a good balance. But for those that aren't familiar with HGA, this is kind of their bread and butter. Like what they're making themselves known for is these custom labels. The one on the left is the kanji Shohei Ohtani autograph, I think, is on the label at the top there. I don't know if y'all can increase your screen size to see that. But he signed like that in a couple Bowman Chrome cards and a couple Topps Finest cards. Phil Hughes actually has bought one at the National, the Topps Finest. And then on the right is the Marcus Smart off-center label, which I thought was pretty neat and creative. Super off-center card, and the label's also off-center on it. And I think that on the previous slide, it said $10 extra to request a custom label. Custom's back to $10. So it sounds like, yeah, $10 to add a custom label onto it. Pretty cool. I think some are cool. Some are kind of gimmicky, but
the Ohtani one, while kind of cool, also just kind of looks like a video game cover.
Yeah, and it blurs out a lot of the actual information on the card too. One of the coolest ones I saw that I actually personally like the most is, I should put it in here. There was a Zion Net Marvels 2020 Donruss card, and the label mirrored like just the straight up lines from the Net Marvels in the color. If they can, just use like the least amount of clutter as possible while matching the colors to the card, I think that's sometimes when they look the coolest. And the least gimmicky, which like the Ohtani, well, kind of cool also. It's like, is that a professional sports card graded label? It looks kind of like a Photoshop type of thing, but like the other one looks pretty cool too, the Marcus Smart. So we got some graded values here. 9.5 sold for $215 and HGA 9 sold for $88. Those are both within the last couple days, it looks like. What's their takeaway from this? I think, Nate, the next slide you can talk about.
What's our takeaway? Wait, can you go back to prices just so I can see them again? That was so quick. 216 for the 9.5 and 88 for the 9.
Yeah.
And here you have 9.5's 25, 9's 97. So, it's a fourth of the population was the 9.5, but the price is only barely double. And if you are paying for HGA to grade your cards, if you pay $35 and you get a 9, you're kind of toast. But we move on. Not much to say here.
Yeah, that I was trying to point to the fact that there was 0 10s.
Yeah, well, 0 10s for sure.
Yeah.
9.5s are hard to get. 9s, they grade really hard apparently, or their computer approach does.
So I just want to make a comment really quick on HGA. So for a while, I know that they were talking about, using human intervention in grading with the digital scanning and the actual like AI grading techniques. And I know that there was some just like confusion between, were they doing AI grading? Were they using the scanners? Were they using humans? I know that the owner actually reached out to me and mentioned September 18th was when they're supposed to release their demonstration of their grading software. It'll give them a big step forward, he said. So for anyone wondering, they do have plans to share kind of how they do their grading, and maybe it'll make people more interested or make people more confident in what they're doing instead of just, some writing on a website, like, oh, we use AI to grade and everything, which would be cool to see. I mean, any way to be more transparent with the community is better. I think that's how you gain, more market share and everything.
Yeah. And then this, can you actually go back to that big page?
Yeah.
This is where it gets really interesting, at least for me. is because CSG, and we did economy for our purposes, $20, as opposed to bulk, because we're assuming that you're sending in 1 to 2 cards, 3 cards, whatever, and not getting your 50 card minimum order. So remember that when we show you the next slide, or the couple slides after this with the table. But this is interesting because for $20, you can get your card back in 120 days, otherwise known as 4 months, or otherwise known as 6 times the time it takes you to get back from SGC. And then if you go to standard, you pay the same price you would pay for SGC, and you still get it back 4 times slower. And then if you want to pay $60, you can get it back the same time as SGC and pay 3 times as much. So whichever way you put it, CSG is behind the 8 ball compared to the other companies because of their prices are cheaper than like a PSA, but the value's not there, and the times are way longer than like an SGC.
Yeah, it does say business days. It says working days at the very top.
120 working days. That's even worse.
It's not even just straight up days. And then the other thing is, I don't know. I know that they have CGC. That's like, the comic book grading company, the Pokemon grading company that is either the parent company or, a sister company, whatever you want to say, to CSG, the sports card grading company. I don't know why, if they couldn't do it, if they didn't want to do it, but why didn't they just take the same cases for Pokemon cards and use them for the card grading? And then they look just like the comic books too. Like, while I know that TCGs and comic books are not the same as sports cards, keeping the brand recognition and actually a nice case and label makes way more sense to me than one, making the label even bigger and then making the brand look really weird too. I wish that they would have kept the same brand, label, design, all that stuff for CSG as they did for CGC with the blue coloring and whatnot, because yikes, like in my mind, these labels are just so rough. And I've said it before, especially on the left side of the screen, the no subgrades, there's so much white space on that label. It is just, it's an eyesore. That's tough to look at. It's $83 for a CGC 9, CSG. CSG 9 got the 83. CSG 9.5 sold for 144 on the 12th and 127 on the 12th. I don't think that I could see myself send a card to HGA if it's like a PC card that I think has cool colors and match the label and just make it kind of cool.
Well, you had one.
I actually do have one. I bought it HGA slabbed. It's a Mason Mountain Cracked Ice Auto.
It looks amazing.
It looks really good, actually. I do agree. I can't see myself sending a card to CSG. Literally the only company on here, and maybe Beckett too, actually, because of the cost. It just makes no sense. I couldn't see myself sending a card to them.
For reference, neither could I. I would not in a million years would I send a card to either CSG or Beckett.
Yeah.
For whatever that's worth.
And I guess this is what it's worth because it's just straight numbers at this point. So, Nate, I'll make this bigger. I guess. Do you want to walk through this?
Sure. So we have up top, we have the grade. Well, okay, left side of the column, we have grade. And we have raw. And it's all the same all the way across. And 9s, 9.5s, 10s. If you see an NA, it's because no price point was available.
Or they just don't have the grade, like a PSA 9.5.
Correct. And then across the top, you'll notice PSA, BGS, SGC, HEA, and CSG, so you know what column you're in. And then at the bottom, you have turnaround times plus cost. So whatever the turnaround time is for the price point we chose, which should be the cheapest unless it was a bulk submission, shout out CSG, then we didn't choose that because you'd have to have 50 cards, and that's not the point of our exercise here. And so now that you understand this, and obviously it's pretty self-explanatory, anything in red, obviously negatives, greens, positives. And you can all see that here. I guess there might, do we put these in podcasts or no?
No, you can't see this if you're on a podcast, so you'll have to read through it.
Okay, so I'll read through it. So PSA.
Make sure you start with the raw because you didn't say that.
Oh, yeah. Lamelo Ball Prism, we took an average of $50 for raw. So assume that you are buying this card for $50 raw. You did not buy it out of a box. You did not get a hobby box, nothing like that. You are buying this card for $50. And if you are grading with PSA for $200, which is their new cheapest price point, a PSA 9 would last sale was $181.50, which would net you negative $68.50. And that is not including taking out fees. And A PSA 10, 736. Some people thought that might be a shill bid. Some people thought that might be too high.
Let me point out really quick on the 736. There was a more recent sale, but it was over $1,000 through Probstein. So we did not include that. So I would say 736 seems more legit based on some buy nows going, I think, between like 800 recently too. So seems pretty legit.
Perfect. So you're up $486 on your $200 investment. Obviously, you then would have to take out whatever fees, depending on whoever you sold it through. BGS, again, $50 raw, 9 for with subgrades, $140.50 sold. You would lose out on $159.50. If you sold 9.5, we had a no sub and a sub example, a no sub, $192.50, and that would net you $17.50, not including final fees, which means you'd probably be in the negative. A one with subgrades, $308, which would net you $8. So this is the craziest part to me, is that if you paid the extra $125 for subgrades as opposed to no subgrades, you would actually come out worse than just not getting the subgrades at all.
And let's make this clear one more time. If you're picking up mid live stream or mid podcast for whatever reason, you fast forward maybe. This is one card, one example. Lamelo Ball Prism base valued at $50. There's a million different examples you can go of between autographs, serial number and non-sport, whatever you want to say. But this was our way to look at a pretty standard modern card that hasn't been graded that high of a frequency. Like, Zion and Lucas have now been graded like crazy. This is like if you were to start to buy new cards now, want to grade them, this is your most likely scenario. And I want to point out too, for those listening who might be new, when we say no subgrades and subgrades, if you scroll back really quick, I'm just going to pop back to the BGS slide. You can see here on the Lamelo Prism, there's no subgrades in the little gold label right there. And what they do is they put the centering, edges, corners, and surface. They grade each one to get to the final grade. They added an option where there's no subgrades like PSA, and they charge 50% of the value, that's a large price difference to charge for services. Like when you talk about services, like how you offer them, that's a huge difference. And I imagine if they grade with no subgrades, you still have to write down the subgrades as a grader because that's how you get to your final grade.
Yeah.
So it's not like that. The cost of them putting the little numbers on there is that high.
Yeah.
It might be a couple cents, per card, but it's just wild to see. Like that means specifically that they know how different the market level is.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. I that's so hard to process, but you can keep going.
And it should be pointed out the PSA and Beckett are both 10 to 30 plus day turnarounds for that price point, the $200 and the $125 or $250 for Beckett. Now, this is where it gets interesting. SGC, I believe, has the second highest ceiling outside of PSA, but a much higher floor than PSA. So you spent $50 for the raw and you graded it for $30 because that's what it costs for the SGC. And if you got a 9, the last sale, $74.81 on auctions, you're losing $5.19, which is not bad considering you're losing $68 for PSA and $159 for BGS. Now, if you get a 9.5, $114.02, you're netting $30. And if you get a 10, you're netting $225, which is incredible and a lot easier to hit a 10 on SGC than it is BGS, which isn't available for a price point. And so, it is like the second most valuable for me. The second most upside here is SGC, and the floor is definitely way higher than a PSA or a BGS, making it my early favorite. Any comments?
Yeah, I was looking at the comments because there's some good stuff here. So Alex King, I want to put his comment up on the screen. I don't want to dodge it at all. So he said this grading chart is way off. Not comparing the grade type gem mint. Just the grade values and HGA/Beckett 9.5 is gem mint, SGC and PSA 10 are gem mint. Very good point. So yes, if you look at like how we have 9.5 on the entire the same line, like Beckett's 9.5 versus HGA's 9.5 might be, well, I guess it's the same, right? It's gem mint. But for SGC, their 10s are gem mint. So it's hard when you look at a PSA 10. Is it like the SGC 10? Is it like the SGC 9.5? The biggest point here is that, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter what companies call gem mint versus pristine. I feel like each company has their own standards to grade. It's not like that there's some overall regulating body that makes a standard, sends them out to everyone and says, okay, BGS, you need to call your 9.5, like your exact grade for your 9.5 needs to mirror exactly what PSA 10s are. I think it's all based on consumer confidence. It's all based on the actual number and the grading company on the label. And that's what then results in the final values, which while you are correct, I'm not like saying you're not correct, that there are differences in names for the grades. I just think that it all has to do with consumer confidence and that there is no like grading standards between companies.
And if anything, that's a black eye for Beckett because a Gem Mint 9.5 is you profit less than a non-Gem Mint 9.5 from a Mint, I guess, from SGC. Like a Mint card from SGC makes you more money than a Gem Mint card from BGS.
Yeah.
And a Gem Mint card from SGC makes you way more money than a Gem Mint card from Beckett. But I imagine a pristine 10 and a BGS 10. I mean, because then it gets weird because then they have the black label, which would be kind of like the pristine. Gold. So then you have nothing for the BGS. Yeah. You have no example for the BGS 10.
Yeah, which is why in reality, every single grading company sets their own standard, makes their own gimmicks, right? Like HGA.
You get to the comments.
Yeah, HGA, I don't know if you know this. They call like their 10, it's like a flawless. Like if all of them are 10s, like it's kind of like the black label, they call it a flawless. Exactly. This is what GV Sports Cards is right. People buy the number in the grading company, not the names of the grades, which is why there's very much so reality to Gem Mint and whatnot, but I think that stuff is secondary to thinking about the company's name and where it brings the most value and then the number on it as well.
And yeah, I'm not going in and saying, like, me personally, I wouldn't look at this and say, oh, a 9.5 from SGC is equivalent to a 9 from PSA, right? But I also wouldn't look at it and say a 9.5 is equivalent to a 9.5 from Beckett, if that makes sense. I just look at it as its own thing, and go from there.
Yeah, same, because I think that you could start to pick apart every single thing in grading if you start to look at each individual grade and what gets what and what's related to what and what should be valued off of what the actual card looks like. Just because Nike's shoes sell for $150, the utility is not like insanely different than like maybe like a $75 pair of running New Balance shoes. And I think that's the same point here, is that the utility between these grading companies really isn't all that different. It's just the name brand on it that's really making the difference in where the consumer confidence is placed. Clearly, the most expensive is PSA. But if you start to compare, like Nate said, SGC's 9.5 better than BGS's 9.5. Well, in the terms of like a smart business decision, it is, but it's worth less money straight up. But the cost to get graded is so much lower that it makes it a smart business decision.
Yeah.
Which in my mind makes it better almost, right? Like
it to me, it is a better card because it costs less to grade and you can make more profit off of it. And that is, if this is a personal collection card, you don't care about the profit. And so you get it graded with whoever you want anyways. If it's not a personal collection card and you actually care about the profit, then you are going to want to make the most, which makes SGC the option here compared to BGS, which makes Michael's comment another nail in the coffin, so to speak, for BGS.
What was Michael's comment?
That the chart was off and that the 9.5 is a Gem Mint for BGS, but 10 is a Gem Mint for SGC. Oh, Alex. Okay. I said Michael. My bad, Alex.
I want to point there's a lot of comments here. I like this. Thank you, everyone.
I was thinking Michael, because isn't Michael King a reliever for the Yankees?
I don't know, Nate.
Pretty sure.
I do want to thank everyone for joining today's stream so far. It's a great stream. Lots of people in here, lots of comments coming in. Anthony, those all sold at the exact same time. So if you look throughout the presentation before this, like if you rewind the YouTube stream, each slide actually had the date that each of these sold. Like we took these values on this chart from everything we already walked through. I will say, like, most are within the last 2 to 3 weeks. Something like a CSG 9.
I can confirm that the 308 on the BGS is from July 17th, so it is quite old.
Yeah, so the 9.5 with subs 308 is quite old, and maybe since then it'd be more, maybe it'd be less. We don't know, but we're just trying to take the most relevant grade point or price point that we can actually find, because some of these you can't. There's a lot back and forth in here right now.
Well, let's keep going on our thing.
All right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So now we have SGC, PSA, highest ceiling. SGC, second highest ceiling, and not so bad of a floor. Beckett, almost no value unless you're getting a 10 or a black label. You would agree with me?
For what? Sorry. For which?
For grading.
Yes.
PSA, highest ceiling.
Yes.
SGC, second highest ceiling, but also like a good floor, whereas PSA doesn't really have a good floor. And Beckett almost has no value at all unless you get a 10 or a black label. And as we've seen with this specific Lamelo card, you have about a 2% chance of getting a 10 and no percent chance currently of getting a black label.
Now
that will change.
2% of current graded cards are 10s, but if you have a card that you think looks pristine, the chances are probably higher than 2%. But I get what you're saying. I agree with you, because yes, it is so hard to come by a BGS 10, and I swear there's been enough scenarios to where people have either cracked and regraded or whatever, and it goes from a 9.5 to a 10 or back and forth for whatever reason. Like, just because it's a 10 one day does not mean it's the BGS 10 black label the next day.
Because all grading is a
not to say scam.
Yeah.
That's right for that. No, not true. All grading is not a scam, but I will say that there are gimmicks in grading. That is what I'll say. There's definitely gimmicks in grading, like the BGS 10 black label. I want to see someone get a black label, crack it, resend it in. Does it get a black label? If it gets another one, crack it, resend it in.
Let's buy the cheapest black label we can find and do it.
You want to waste 200 some bucks on the grading?
Let's get somebody rich to buy the cheapest black label they can and do it.
I like that idea. But did you even talk through?
No, we haven't talked through HGA or CSG.
Go ahead.
I always want to say SGC. HGA, so $20, but the difference here is that you're waiting 60 days. So $30, 25 days for SGC, and way more expensive for 10 to 30 days for PSA and BGS. 60 days, but $20 here for HGA. And you're looking at, after your 60 days with a $50 buy-in of the Lamelo Ball card, you're looking at $17.88 a profit on a 9, and a 9.5 would net you $145.50 a profit, which is actually pretty stinking good, all things considered, especially for a $20 price point. And then there were no 10s. And then CSG, this is just absolutely trash. And I'm not going to mince words here. I would never in my life send it to Certified Sports Guarantee when they are costing $20 to grade it, when you could send it to HGA for the same price and get it back in half the time, or send it for $10 more to SGC and get it back in a sixth of the time. And you look at the costs here, and it's $50 plus $20, $70, $83 for a 9. That's $13 profit. You're going to lose that on shipping and
insurance and fees, whatever.
And then $66 for the 9.5 profit. If I'm getting a 9.5 and only getting $66, and I had to wait 120 days, and that's business days, not real days, then there is almost no value to only getting $66 for that long of a wait for something as hot as Lamelo Ball card. If you were sending in Nick Senzel or something, or Killian Hayes, okay, sure. Otherwise, there is almost no value in CSG.
I think the entire thing, I agree with what you're saying. I think everything I think when you say that is just like, why would you not go with SGC at that point? Like clearly there's a critical business difference between SGC and HGA. The only critical difference between CSG and SGC is that they take 3, 4 times, 5 times as long, or 6 times as long, depending on the submission, and their values are lower. Yep. That's like all I see in it. Like,
yep. So for me, and I don't know where you stand, for me, if I have a really expensive card, and I'm not talking one-on-ones
really
here.
Quick, I said that their values are lower. I should say that their values might be a little higher, but between the time value of money and the profit and the waiting and everything, that's where I'm saying it's lower. Go ahead.
So for me, if I have something really expensive, and I'm not talking a one-of-one because I've got a one-of-one that I'm looking to get graded, but I just don't think a PSA 10 would move the needle enough for me to grade it, right? Especially for the guy it is. But if I have like a red out of 5 of a guy, I get that graded by PSA, right?
Yes.
Because I would want to show that is the cream of the crop compared to the other reds.
Right.
So that's where PSA is in the market for me, but I wouldn't send anything under like a $500 card to them for 300, $200.
Yeah, I agree.
Beckett, I would not send a card to. There is just no value there. Unless you were like you have to be like 100% positive that there's almost no way, or that there is no way that they can give it anything less than a 10. Right? So we sent in my Vlad Guerrero Jr. because you said this looks like a flawless card, and sure enough, they gave it a BGS 10.
Yeah.
But that is almost the only way I would do it. They'd have to agree with you 100% that it is flawless for me to send it into BGS and spend that money. And you'd have to get the subgrades because you don't want a BGS 10 without subgrades. That'd look ridiculous.
I think that if it actually gets a BGS 10, they upgrade it to subgrades.
You think?
I think I've heard that before.
Okay. And then SGC, you could lose a little money if you get a 9, so you're going to want to make sure you send in good cards. But if you send in good cards, 9, 5, 10s, 9 5s, you're probably not going to lose money per se. You might not make money. You're probably not going to lose money. 9s, you probably lose barely any money. And 10s, you will definitely make a lot of money if it is a good card. And then HGA and CSG, there is a nice floor there, but there just isn't a very nice ceiling. And Josh Valdez, I do not understand how you were saying that there is no value in BGS. Well, literally any big card, especially with an auto, it goes to BGS. That was true back in the day. I don't know if it's as true now, but why would I send it to BGS when I can send it to PSA? Answer me that one.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack with that, but the most notable thing here is that one, most of this discussion is based around $50 to $150 cards. And two, if you do have a high dollar card now, there's many more cards that are high dollar, high caliber passing through PSA than BGS nowadays. There was a lot of grading in the past that was done with BGS, but that has flipped pretty hard in the last 2 years.
Are you guys talking about now because the prices for BGS? Yes, specifically right now.
Yeah.
If PSA comes out in like 6 months and says, hey, we're introducing a $30 PSA level.
And if they say it's going to take 6 months, we know what we're doing.
I'm sending my cards to PSA.
Yeah. Or if BGS even were to come out and offer a $25, $30 submission that they can guarantee 6 months or 7 months, which they will not be able to do from what I'm seeing from them. PSA probably won't be able to do that either, honestly. But yeah, I mean, all depends on the current grading situation, price, turnaround time. And that's why coming here today, we called this sports card grading update, because I think a lot of people right now are getting to the point, I can see it, where there's pent up angst that they can't send to PSA. Yeah. And what should I do? Do I just never grade a card again, or do I send to a place like SGC or HGA?
And that's really what this was about.
And I think in the conclusion of all this, take a chance on a couple cards. I would not do your first submission sending in 50 cards to SGC or 100 cards to SGC before you can get a feel for how they grade. Is it valuable to you? Is it worth it? Or the turnaround time is good for you? I'd always say test stuff out. Like test out HG if you want to send a couple cards there. But I'd say tread lightly until you get a good feel for if it's worth your business time and energy. And I know after the stream there's gonna be a lot of comments on here that just say these guys just hate on BGS because people have been letting us know it for a while. But until they do something that proves to me that they are turning it around, I will continue to say the same thing. I will not send a card to them.
I just say look at the values, and I get it, Josh, that there are huge cards that get sent in, but more and more there's been huge cards that get sent to PSA instead. Now I get the half grade comment. Sometimes you want to know it's a 9.5, right? You're like, oh, just a 10 or a 9. I'd wish PSA put 9.5 in there, right? That'd be nice.
It also might dilute their brand though, too.
That's true. So I get it. I just do think that there are way more cards getting sent to PSA now than there were BGS. And obviously that wasn't the case. When I got into cards again after being a kid in like 2015, we were going to send all our cards. We were going to send all our Bowman to BGS.
I was sending all my cards to BGS.
BGS was king, and now PSA is king. And the one feeling I get is that just BGS isn't doing
enough.
They're
just not doing
to get back on top. And like guys underneath them, SGC are doing more to get up to BGS levels than BGS is doing to get up to PSA levels.
Let me make it very clear. We are in the age of how do you use tech to your advantage as a business? And BGS has not changed one process, system, or outward-facing method with technology over the past like decade and a half. I've been doing cards now since I was 8, and that makes it, I'm bad at math right now, 15 years. And their BGS pop report has not changed once over 15 years. You type in names, you type in sets, you type in years, you don't even get the results you want. Like, how does that make me confident enough to then send my cards to them when they haven't changed or gone better or increased their server on that or made their search characteristics actually match what you put into their search? And on top of that, they haven't changed their label in that long. And I'm not saying you have to make drastic changes to your label. PSA has made very fine changes to their label over the last 20 years, most of which are super important and bring more security to their slabs. Now, I know that every single slab and every single label can be copied in some way or another, and it's just the nature of the beast when you have an expensive industry. It doesn't matter if you're in shoes. It doesn't matter if you're in video games. It doesn't matter if you're in cards. It doesn't matter if you're in like coins or something. I'm sure there's counterfeits in every single industry, but PSA with their Lighthouse label being very explicit on all their stuff that they do is super important, and BGS is still just their little strip of metal with nothing else behind it.
Whoa, that's the mic. And I like this. I like this. Josh says we send a ton to SGC for simple, quick turnaround and smaller but faster profits. And I think that's what I was trying to get to with this exercise, is that since we're not looking at Jason Dominguez autos here. No. We're not looking at blue Lamelo balls or red Lamelo balls.
Yeah, I'm not sending it to SGC.
We're not sending those cards to SGC. No. We're just talking, and likewise, we're also not looking at like.
We also don't have those cards too.
No, we don't. But we're also not looking at take a like a Bo Bichette Topps Chrome rookie, right? We're also not looking, or maybe even a little bit less than that. Yeah. Say like Pete Alonso. We're not looking at Pete Alonso Topps Chromes either, because that's too small for a SGC thing. But if you're sitting on a LaMelo Ball, or you're sitting on a Joe Burrow or somebody like that, and you don't want to spend the $300 to send it in because you just don't think the profit is there, or if you're sitting like a Tua would be a solid guy to send in because he should be the starter for the Dolphins as long as they don't say trade for Deshaun Watson. And $300 for a PSA 10 probably is a bit absurd. So you send in for 30, you buy the card for 15, 20, 25, you send in for 30, and you could probably make, 50, 60, 70 bucks on that sale. So there is a time and a place for all these. And for me, it is the small cards or personal collection cards that I really want to get into a holder and don't want to spend an absurd amount of money on.
Yeah, really quick. Like this card here, I just pulled up pro.slabstox.com on my phone. This is from our guy Vincent, sent down today's newsletter and posted to SlabStoxPro Instagram account. $430 was the last sale on the PSA 10 Optic Holo. Was that 2 days ago now? If you grade that card through PSA, I don't know how much the card costs raw, but I imagine you're barely making anything, right? Like that seems like a nice card to send to SGC, an Optic Holo rookie of Tua. Get it back before the season and everything. That's the type of thing that makes sense to me. I know we're running down in time here as we're now well over an hour, but it is a awesome discussion. I see a lot of great comments. Yeah, you got to be in the chat when you do that. And I just want to thank everyone for joining. And while I have everyone here, if you want more ways to engage in our content, so tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time, I'll be going live on our YouTube channel right here, same place, but 4 p.m. Eastern time. And we are doing our first ever SlabStox FC pack release. Most of the packs are bought so far. We still have some remaining at slabstox.com/shop for the stream tomorrow. I actually hand curated the entire set. I want to find an awesome way to pack some soccer cards into different things for everyone and make them valuable and make them exciting. And hopefully there's some really cool cards that you all get through these packs. And there's 3 different budget levels. Because, when we do things in sports cards, when we do release new projects, we, release SlabStoxPro, we want to make sure we're always catering to everyone in the market, making sports cards accessible to everyone, which is why we have $43, $110, and $300 budget level packs for tomorrow. Either comes with 1 or 2 cards, maybe one of them has 3, and then there are a couple sealed packs sprinkled throughout the repacks as well. So slabstox.com/shop to grab some SlabStox FC packs, the first ever release for tomorrow. I put as much value as I could into these for you all. I really wanted to spread the love of soccer cards that I've had over the last 2 years to others, and I'm really excited for it. And I want you all to be excited for it too. So if you go to slabstox.com/shop, like I said, you'll find these 3 product pages, and you can jump in and grab some packs. a ton of serial numbered cards. Like so many serial numbered cards are in these packs. There's a couple autographs. There's some graded cards. A ton of top flight players too. Like this is a great way if you're looking to get involved in soccer but don't know where to start. This is where I would suggest if you are looking to to start in. And I really did put a lot of time and energy into this to make sure that it's really good for you guys and everything. So SlabStox.com/shop to join tomorrow's stream at 4 p.m. Eastern time. You can just come and watch too if you don't want to buy a pack. But I would be very excited to open a pack for you all tomorrow. That's it for today's stream. It's an hour and 10 now. I knew we weren't really going to get to the questions today because there are just so much to unpack with the grading. Nate, just one last thought on this chart that we have here. Just one last thought.
One last thought. I'm an SGC guy now. That's my thought. But also, I would like to thank everyone. I thought this was one of our best live streams we've ever had. A lot of that had to do with the amount of data, I think, which is interesting. But then also a lot of it had to do with the interactions
I think.
From people in the comment section. So thank you guys for interacting, and not only interacting with us, but interacting with others, and, getting us to think about how we're thinking about things. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the comments. And one last reminder, this is, again, just one card and one value from one card. So, there are going to be different, if we chose completely different cards, there would be different values on this. So this is very player and set dependent. Like I'm not probably going to send in an absolute football Joe Burrow to SGC, right? I probably just never get it graded. But a Prism Joe Burrow, that's the type of thing that worth it.
I agree with Nate. Young, high potential, superstar, big set, or very well perceived set that just doesn't fit into the PSA grading model right now. That's the biggest takeaway I have is to SGC. And maybe we'll throw together a couple of cards and test out. Like we said, if you do want to test it, I would suggest testing like 3 to 5 cards so you can really take notes on what you're sending in, what the different condition is, and see how they come back so you don't risk too much in too short of a time frame. And then maybe they grade way harder than you expect. I don't want to see anyone take like a huge bath on 40, 50 cards like that. So 3 to 5 cards I'd test. I think that we should do it too and maybe document it just to join in with other people too.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool for us.
Yeah, we'll take a video. We'll video that every step of the way.
Yeah. It's a great piece of content, actually. Let's do it. Okay. So we're going to do that. You all come back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time for the SlabStox FC pack stream. And then we will see you all next Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern time for another live stream. I want to thank everyone as well, like Nate did, because that was awesome. That was a very good live stream. And I really do appreciate you all throwing in your chat. There's actually one point where there's so many chats I couldn't even really read what was happening. So that was cool. Thank you, everyone, and we will catch you all in the next live stream.
See you guys.